Hi, this is Roger, thanks for dropping by. Orchid progress updates. I've finalised how this is going to work. I think it's going to be okay. It was a bit confusing on Sunday because I was trying to work out timings and things like that. But I think I've got it now. Right, this is set 7 and this will be the final set for 2023. As no work was done after this lot basically, and this lot we're looking back to those that were worked on in August. So from that point on, oh hang on, I'm looking at, yes, I'm looking at set 6. So this is the ones that were worked on in August. Set 7 will be the rest of the year, and it's only a few, because once we got past the other side of August, I didn't do that much work. I think there's 5 or 6 in that set, and that will be the last set for the year basically. So that will be towards the end of December. That nicely finishes off 2023. That worked out well, didn't it? Now what's going to happen next year then? Next year what's going to happen, because there'll be a crossover. What we're going to do is at the beginning of each month we're going to go back and start set 1. So at the beginning of January we will start set 1, and that will effectively be a 6-month update, all bar a week or 2. So we will roll forward again next year, starting in January, going back to those that were worked on in June, January, February, March. So we'll be, it's virtually a 9-month update really, because we'll have done the 3. Yeah, it's a 9-month update, so it's 6 months on basically. So it'll be a 9-month update. These are 3-month updates. So we will work towards a 9-month update, adding 6 months on. That's a good amount of time from when the work was done. We will be starting in the middle of winter obviously. So that's what we're going to do. In January, beginning of January, we'll go back to set 1, February set 2. And we'll re-look at all of those orchids, those that are still with us. Always add that bit in. And why I've switched that to the beginning is obviously during next year I'm going to start work on more orchids. Some of which may be the same ones, because some things that got repotted earlier in the year might get done again, because I might want to change their media for various reasons. Yeah, so that was the reason for the crossover. So obviously things that I work on at the beginning of the year, that will become a new set. And 3 months on from when I did that work, we'll start looking at those. And those will be at the end of the month, like they were through this year. That's why I said there might be a bit of a crossover. When we get to about sort of June, July time, we might be finishing off the 9-monthly updates, but we'll have started the 3-month updates for the new sets. So there'll be at least 1 a month, yeah? And it will continue. And unless you've got a particularly good memory, doing a 9-month update, you probably won't remember what the plant looked like when the work was done. But I will make it easy as I can for you to go back and look at the original videos if you want to, by giving you the date that the work was done. So you can go back to that point in time and see if you can find the video, if you want to. Obviously if you're going to watch the video when the work was done, it would pay to watch that first, so the information will be at the beginning of the video, yeah? And it's up to you whether you want to go back and see the actual work, whether it was a mount, whether it was repotting, whether it was taking kikis off and planting them up, the various things that go on in our world of orchids. Right, so that's how the progress updates are going to work, and how they will be able to continue right through next year, and possibly forever. Yeah, because obviously new work will be done as this progresses. As I start my work on my orchids next year, orchids will get work done on that are not in any of the existing sets. So they will form new progress update sets. It should work. That's my plan, and I'm sticking to it. As I said on Sunday, quite honestly, you don't really have to worry about what's going on with organising all this. As far as the video, the individual video is concerned, it's an update on some orchids to see how they're doing. So it stands in its own right, I believe. It doesn't have to be part of all the organisation and messing around that's going on up here and in my notes. It'll stand in its own right as a standalone video, I hope. So that's what we're going to do. So let's get on with this one. I've got the plants out, and the first one has got no tag because the name's too long, and this was one of the new Paoppedums that, if you think about it, my Paoppedums, there is only one that's not this year. All the others were bought this year. Yeah, because I started a new genus effectively with Paoppedum blackjack, and it sort of made me think, well, if that one's doing that well, maybe some others will. Now this is a very rare cross in as much as it's quite complex, but it was put in the Let's Grow Some Roots mix, you know, which is the moss and the perlite and the small bark. And therefore, during this time of year, it gets watered very carefully. It gets watered round the edge of the pot, and I watch the water run down. Now, last time this was potted, I put too much water in. This is still wet. Now, this should be heading towards dryness now, given when this was actually watered. So this one had a bit too much, but we've got no sign of roots coming out to the edge of the pot yet. But what we do have is a nice new growth, and it's pushing on for a Paoppedum at a reasonable rate because they are relatively slow compared with some other orchids. So that's that one, and that was worked on the 3rd of August, along with the next one I'm going to show you. They were both done together, and they were both repotted, so there's a repotting video at the beginning of August with 2 Paoppedums in it, this one and the next one. Now this one is Helvetia. It's actually a primary cross, and it's a clump forming path. Which I haven't come across this sort of concept before, where it pushes up new fans willy-nilly without losing the old ones. So eventually forming quite a dense clump, which is what it's doing now. And again, this was potted up in the same mix as the last one at the same time on the 3rd of August. I've still got no roots coming out to the edge of the pot, but I do have new fans growing on, which may or may not bloom, because this one hasn't bloomed yet. This is a nice strong fan here, yeah, and it hasn't bloomed. So that's a contender for a possible blooming fan. Be careful how I say that, a fan that will bloom. That's a bit better. And then there's another one around the other side of the plant that's also a reasonable sized fan. And then there's also quite a few new ones. So I'm watching these new ones, the smaller ones, to see what they do, how quickly they grow. And I'm hoping that when they do that, we start seeing some root activity in the pot, because at the moment I can't see any. Doesn't mean to say there isn't any going on, but given that roots have a tendency to head for the edge of the pot and then cycle round the pot, there's none showing yet. But nonetheless, it's doing okay. It's got some pale leaves on it. I was a bit worried about that when I got it, I must admit. I thought, well, those leaves are a bit pale. Perhaps it got too much light, one possibility. Perhaps there was some sort of deficiency. Perhaps it's just one that has paler leaves. but the newer leaves on the new fans do seem to be a little bit darker. So, so that's that one, doing okay. Right, then moving on to the 29th of August, all these were done at the same time, and they are consequently all in the same video. And we will look at this one first. This has got a name about 8 foot long. This is Mexicoa geise brettiana. I'll be doing pop-ups. Yet to bloom. Now this one was taken off a mount on the grounds that it was staying too wet when it wasn't in growth. So it came off a mount and went into a pot where I can control the moisture. This specifically has quite long periods of dryness where it comes from. It comes from dry oak forests in Mexico, with a name like Mexicoa. You could work that out for yourself, couldn't you? So it's not a moisture loving plant. It's not a high humidity plant. As I said, it comes from drier oak forests. So obviously when it's in active growth it'll drink and it'll feed. But it's not doing anything at the moment. So since it was taken off its mount and put in a pot, it hasn't deteriorated. The bulbs that are there are still plump, and it's hanging on, and that's all I can say about this. I'm hoping that, you know, with the higher temperatures into next year, that it will come back into growth. But it's not a hot grower or anything like that. So hopefully we will get some roots going and get some more progress on this before the next time we look at it. I have got a picture of a bloom, but it's not mine. I borrowed it off the internet. I'll put it back, honest. But I got this from Burnham's, almost on a, well, there was one there that was in bloom. And I saw it and I thought I'd really want one of those. It was in the private area around the back. And so I asked and I managed to get one. And then blow me, the next time I went I was with Lynn, and there was one sat out in the sales, well not in the sales area, but in the nursery that's open to the public, actually in bloom. I think Lynn grabbed it. Anyway, so that's that little one. And that went into, again, let's grow some roots. That went into small bark with some moss and perlite. So that's that one. And then the next two are both Dendrobiums, and they were both kikis taken off of a failing plant that has subsequently failed and been thrown away. Now this one's not doing very well at all and might not actually succeed. This is Dendrobium tortilli, and I'd like to keep this one going. The blooms are very, very nice. Now this is just in damp moss. It has got some roots. There are roots down in the pot that go green when I water it. I let this get virtually bone dry. This is a drier in winter type anyway, and at the moment it's not growing. So it doesn't need much moisture. It just needs enough to stop it dehydrating basically. And all I can hope for with this is new growths from the base. This kiki I believe is lost. I'm leaving it in there in case it shoots out from the base, but this one's probably lost, which leaves these two. They are small, they're not strong, this might not make it. And even if it does make it and puts on a new growth on each of these kikis next year, that's probably still 3 years from blooming now. But at least it's not totally lost. There is a chance this can regrow from the kikis, otherwise it would have been lost. And then the last one in this set is still growing. Now these are kikis again, all taken off the mother plant which was then lost, and this is signatum, a non-bloomer for me, but we've got growth on these. Some of these kikis are actively growing. There's not massive amounts of roots going on, but there are some. You can see there's some roots there, there's some roots running around the bottom of the pot. So these are going to make it. These will be okay. This plant is safe. But again, even though these kikis are obviously a lot stronger than the last ones we saw and are putting on growth, under the lights they should keep going as well, at least for, well, maybe for all of the winter, I don't know. And then hopefully new growths from the base next year with larger, stronger canes. This one gets kept moist. I don't let this one get dry because there is actually growth going on. That's just in New Zealand sphagnum moss. That's not in the let's get some roots going, it's just in moss to survive. Now again, what I was saying about work being done. If I get new growth starting at the base of these will get potted up. Yeah, so they'll get taken out of the pure moss and put in something else to grow on next year. Something with a bit more substance than just moss. So there we go, that's set 6, those that were worked on in August. And yeah, so that's the end of November. Somewhere near the end of December, bearing in mind the end of December's got Christmas and New Year and all that stuff, and my son's birthday, all mixed in those days somewhere. It might be a quiet time on the video front, I'll see how it goes. But I should be able to get Sec 7 done at the end of December. And then that will be the last one of anything worked on in 2023. And that set of 7 will get updated from January onwards. Yeah, so we will be revisiting set 1 in January. You can see how that's going to work. And then come sort of June, July time, we'll be starting new sets that are being worked on at the beginning of next year. So it will allow this type of video to roll forward as long as I choose to carry on. You can see how it'll grow, yeah, because we've got the sets that we've already got. We'll be doing a 9-month update at the beginning of next year. You know, we could do an 18-month update on those sets at some point in the future. You see, once they're in their sets, they can have an update altogether and hopefully make a reasonably interesting video as the variety is in there. I know that was, you know, that's 2 Dendrobiums, 2 Paphs and a Oncidium type. So you've got 3 types of orchids in this video, even though there's only 5 orchids. So they do vary. Anyway, that's that one. Tomorrow will be one of my viewers' choice videos that I'm doing. They're a regular weekly Wednesday video. I've got a big list in my notebook and I will choose one of those and we'll do that for tomorrow. Occasionally the subject has been covered very well in an older video and I'll just bring it forward and, you know, just introduce it and reuse it effectively rather than filming a new one. But in the main there'll be new videos, so we'll carry on with that. And then Friday there won't be a Project Orchids video because we finished those. We've done the last one. These progress updates are sort of the way that the Project Orchids are going to continue, even though they're not the same by any means. Those were one orchid at a time, if you see what I mean, whereas these are a group, which I think will be a bit more interesting for people. Plus they are, you know, a nice gap between one and the next one. So, because the Project Orchids were 2 monthly updates, that's quite frequent, isn't it? So, we'll see how it goes. Anyway, say what you think, but that's the way the progress updates are going to work. And it's taken a little bit of thinking to see how this is going to work, but I think it will. I think it will be okay. And my hope is that the individual videos stand in their own right, irrespective of the fact that they're part of a group that is progressing. That's for me to worry about, really. So there we go. And this is quite funny now. The sun is now so low in the sky, it comes in through the lounge window and lights up the end of my computer table. So Mojo's got a new place to go to sleep now, on the end of my table. Normally he comes up on there to say hello and have a fuss and everything, but he doesn't go to sleep there. He goes and finds somewhere a bit more comfortable. But he likes the heat from the sun more than he likes being comfortable. So he's settled down at the end of the wooden table. You know, he's got nice soft settee and, you know, my comfy chair and everything he could be on. But he's decided he likes the end of the table while the sun's on it. He'll move when the sun goes. It won't be long. Right, see you next time. Thanks for dropping by.